Hey guys, Greg here. It's the Vinyl Rundown. Today we're going to be talking about photography and album covers. This video is inspired by Norman Maslov, Mazzy as he calls himself on the VC. He called out to some people to create some videos about album photographers. And I love this topic because I'm very into photography. I have a lot of cameras, and I used to have a dark room and a house full of photography books. I may show you some of them. Oh, here's one. Here's a photography book. A nice little one that I got at a thrift store. $300 book. Anyway, I'm going to talk about perhaps the most famous rock photographer, at least of his era, and that's a guy named Henry Diltz. D-I-L-T-Z. And I'm going to mention him not just because he's famous, but because I'm going to show off a little bit. I met him and got to work with him one day. I'll tell you that story a little bit later. But Henry's story is why he is so famous. He started out as a folk rock musician, hanging out on the LA scene in the late 60s, early 70s, the Laurel Canyon crowd, Sunset Boulevard, the Troubadour, the Sunset Strip, they call it, the Doors. And he just kind of hung out with those musicians and took candid photos of them, and eventually realized he was a better photographer than musician. And they would just say, "Oh, Henry, that's a cool shot. Can I use that on my album? Can I use that on my publicity still, whatever?" So the style of photography that he embodies is very candid, outdoors, natural lighting. You can sort of recognize his style when you see it, and I'll show you a couple of album covers. So Henry Diltz, let me show you a couple things. The first photo of him, that photo that he took that became kind of a famous cover, is James Taylor. What is this record called? Rockabye, Sweet Baby James? Yeah, Sweet Baby James. I can't remember anything because I'm old. This was just kind of a casual photo that he took, and I guess they loved it so much they used it for the cover. I assume he took the back photo too, I'm not really sure. But let me show you another one. Also very famous and really embodies his style. Crosby, Stills, and Nash. You know, just hanging out in the house, taking a picture of them on the couch. One photo, front and back, you can see. Who's peeking through the back? I'm not sure. Who is that? I'll have to look up who that is. I'm not sure who's peeking out there. Did he take any on the inside? I don't know if he took the inside photo. I have to double check. The more posed it is, the less likely it is to be a Diltz photo. He did not take this photo because, like I say, it's posed. It's kind of not a gimmick, but you know, it's kind of a studio photo of them dressed up in the outfits and special processing. But he took all the photos on the inside. So because he just hung around people and was able to get them comfortable with him, really as a friend of theirs, he took a lot of candid shots, and they allowed him access, because it's not like a photographer's hanging out. It's like, it's Henry. He's always here. He's always with us. The most famous photo or album cover that he took, I'm not sure I can get my hands on. I'm not sure we have it. All these bazillion records, I don't have the one famous one he took with the Doors. So through the magic of TV, I'm going to show you this photo. Please don't kick me off the VC or disqualify me for this trick I'm about to pull. Morrison Hotel. The Doors, Jim Morrison. That's probably his most famous photo by far, and instantly recognizable as a Henry Diltz shot. And that photo embodies the whole sort of candid, casual look and feel of the late 60s, early 70s that Henry's known for. Let's see. So the story of why I worked with Henry for one day, maybe 2 days. I was working for a company that was part of Philips PolyGram back in the 90s, and we were doing all this interactive media stuff way before the internet. And we had this week-long photo shoot, and we hired Henry to be the sort of publicity shot guy. And there was really no reason to hire him. It was really more the producer on the project wanted to show off, hey, Henry's my buddy, he'll come over and take some shots. He was probably bored to death by the whole thing. But, so I hung out on set with Henry he was there at least one day, maybe 2 days. It was a 5-day photo, or 5-day video shoot altogether. And the subject of the shoot was this guy, David Visconti, who's a famous TV psychologist. We did this whole interactive media video project around him. And you may know him from the fact that The Simpsons spoofed him and came up with this character. It was really based on Visconti. He was like the first call-in psychologist of his day. Really fun to work with him. I don't have any of the photos that Henry took. I had a few outtakes of video and stuff. And Visconti died like a few years after we did the project. And I'd gotten to know him really well and went to his house and met his whole family. So after he died, I shipped my video outtakes and stuff to his daughter. She was very appreciative of that. Anyway, I'm going to segue into more photography stuff about when I worked at Philips, just because I think it's kind of interesting. So Philips and Kodak came up with this photo CD technology. So before they had digital cameras, they were trying to sort of get people into digital photography with this concept of you took your negatives down to the drugstore and they shoved it into this giant machine, and it did these super high-res scans of your negs, and then they would hand you a CD of your negatives, and there's a little contact sheet that they print out. So that product obviously didn't go anywhere. I mean, it probably lasted for a few years. Once digital photography came out, that thing went away. But Philips actually made a disc player that you could hook up to your TV and your stereo and take these discs of your vacation shots and put them in the disc, put them in the machine, and watch a little slideshow of your photos. They also created a couple of commercial consumer release titles that you could actually go to the store and buy. Say, oh, this has got the great photos of XYZ on it. So we did 3 of those projects when I was at Philips. So I guess I can say I co-produced the only 3 commercial photo CD products that were out there. The first one was a really great photographer, Robert Mapplethorpe. So we basically took a bunch of his photos, sequenced them together with classical music, and you stick it in your machine, you sit and watch a slideshow. It's like, okay, here's a nice picture, 20 seconds of classical music, next. And this concept of interactive photography, it was like, okay, they tried it, wasn't exactly a success. And that was the photographs that Robert Mapplethorpe took of beautiful flowers in black and white. It was not the homoerotic photos that he's actually more famous for. So we did that project. We did a couple with some different, like a landscape photographer and a famous wildlife photographer, National Geographic type big shot guys. I can't remember those guys. I got to dig up the photos or the CDs for my collection. Anyway, I'm just tacking on a little bit of my history of photography. Thanks to Mazzy for inviting us to shoot some of, or to make a video. Actually, I think this is a tough category for a lot of folks. If you don't have a zillion albums and you're not into photography, I think it's going to be hard for people to put that together. The obvious one everybody's thinking of is the Blue Note, and is that Frank Wolf, I guess. Super famous photographer and lots of great photos. Let somebody else do that one, because probably a lot of you want to choose that subject. But looking forward to seeing what other photographers you guys come up with. And thanks for watching. And please don't forget to subscribe to me. And also Norm Mazzy. Subscribe to him also. And let us know what you think of this video. And thanks again for watching, guys.